Your toothbrush. It's not just for cleaning teeth. It's also a bustling metropolis for bacteria. Sound alarming? It might be, but let's dive into what's really going on with the microbial life on your toothbrush and whether you should be reaching for the hand sanitizer. While the idea of a bacteria-laden toothbrush might conjure images of impending doom, it's generally not a major cause for panic, especially if you live with others. According to Dr. Hartman, cohabitating individuals actually share a surprisingly high proportion of oral microbes. Think about it. Kissing, sharing food, even just being in close proximity allows for a constant exchange of bacteria. People who live together share a higher proportion of the microbes in their mouth than people who don't, she explains. I doubt this is driven by such an indirect route as storing toothbrushes close by, as opposed to the more direct route of kissing, or less indirect route of sharing. In fact, even our furry friends get in on the action. Dog owners often share many of the same microbes as their beloved pets. So is toothbrush proximity really the culprit? Probably not as much as you think. But here's where it gets controversial. Some researchers believe that even the bad bacteria might not be so bad after all. Hartman and her team discovered that toothbrushes are home to thriving communities of bacteriophages. These aren't scary human-infecting viruses. Instead, they are viruses that specifically target and infect bacteria, essentially acting as tiny microbial regulators. They help keep the bacterial population in check, potentially preventing any single species from running rampant. So in a way, these viruses could be beneficial for your oral health. What's the real risk? Generally speaking, the risk of infection from these toothbrush-dwelling pathogens is quite low, according to Dr. Zinn. However, there are certain populations who should exercise a bit more caution. Individuals with compromised immune systems, such as those undergoing chemotherapy or with autoimmune disorders, are more susceptible to infections and should be extra diligent about toothbrush hygiene. And this is the part most people miss. Dr. Zinn's research, along with other studies analyzing bacterial DNA from toothbrushes, has revealed the presence of bacteria carrying genes that confer antibiotic resistance. Now, this sounds alarming, and it is a valid concern. These antibiotic-resistant bacteria could potentially make infections harder to treat if they were to occur. Dr. Zinn does note that in his study, these genes were found at relatively low levels, posing only a moderate concern from a public health perspective. However, a study conducted on 50 toothbrushes from students in Italy painted a more concerning picture, finding that all of the toothbrushes harbored bacteria resistant to multiple drugs. This highlights the variability in microbial communities and the potential for higher levels of resistance in certain populations or environments. Many manufacturers offer toothbrushes infused with antimicrobial treatments, marketing them as a solution for keeping bacteria at bay. But do they actually work? The science says, not really. Most studies suggest that these treatments have little to no significant impact on the overall number of bacteria residing on your brush. Even worse, some research indicates that these treatments could inadvertently contribute to the rise of antimicrobial resistant species. By killing off the weaker bacteria, you might be inadvertently creating a selective pressure that favors the growth of resistant strains. So, what can you do to minimize the microbial population on your toothbrush? The simplest and most effective method is to simply let your toothbrush air dry in an upright position after use. This allows moisture to evaporate, which is detrimental to the survival of many microbes. Viruses, including influenza and coronaviruses, are particularly vulnerable to drying out. Furthermore, bacteria like Streptococcus mutans, a major culprit in tooth decay, can remain viable on toothbrush bristles for up to 8 hours, but their numbers begin to decline after 12 hours. Air drying provides ample time for these bacteria to die off. The bottom line, and a conversation starter: while the idea of a bacteria-laden toothbrush might be unsettling, it's generally not a cause for major concern, especially if you're healthy and live with others. Simple practices like air drying your toothbrush can significantly reduce the microbial load. But here's a thought-provoking question. Given the potential for antibiotic resistance, should we be more concerned about the types of bacteria on our toothbrushes than the amount? And should public health campaigns focus more on promoting proper toothbrush hygiene rather than relying on antimicrobial treatments that might inadvertently contribute to resistance? What are your thoughts? Share your opinions and toothbrush habits in the comments below.